3, 2, 1.
Well,
I think we're on.
well, we did.
I think
We're
we're
good. I
on.
don't know. We did.
I think we're good.
I don't know. It's been too long. I'm not sure what this has been too long.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. There it is. Oh, that's
3,
right.
2, 1.
3, 2, 1. There it is.
Well,
Oh,
good morning, everybody. It's been a long time.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's been a long
feels
time.
like a really long time.
Feels like a really long time since we've done one of these. JP and I are back in here.
But
So
JP
you know
and I
I'm
are
going
back
to
in
be
here.
on the
So
road
you
a
know
lot.
I'm going to
here
be
on the road a
through
lot
December
here.
through
So
middle of
we're going to
December.
probably try and get some in the can. So we're going to probably try and get some in the can. We'll get some of these in the can today. To show you some of these in the can today. We'll talk about the schedule here in a minute. But
We'll talk about the schedule.
yeah, I just got back from SWEMA. Yeah, I just got back from SWEMA,
Southwest
Electric
College
Meter
Station
School.
College
Great
Station.
school, at a great turnout.
Great school, at a
way
great
more than they had
turnout.
hoped for.
Way more than they had hoped for.
And the other schools might think about
and
this.
this-
And the other DJ just playing music all the time, and we couldn't help but notice he had a killer playlist, by the way. So he kept playing that music in the place. So it's kind of cool. But then, of course, when you call and talk to your boss or somebody, and they want to make sure you're at the school because you're hearing this kicking music in the background. So I'm sure some people had to explain that. It was great, man. It was a great school down at College Station. And it sits out a little bit from campus and that. So they have rodeos, 4-H stuff out there as well. So it's a great facility, and it was a great school. So we brought the bench out there, and they're going to use it for all their hands-on training now, which you're going to see a lot in the meter schools moving forward, is they're going to use our benches for their hands-on training. So we're pretty proud of that and happy they're going to do that. So yeah, it went really well, but got a lot of traveling coming up. So like I said, we're going to get some in the can. Just a word out there. You've heard me before when I included them in the prayers, some folks that lost loved ones in that. We've got some other folks now we've heard about. I try not to sling names out here, but we have some other folks that are, unfortunately, they're fighting it. And so we'll just generally include them in the prayer without being specific with them. But yeah, there's still a lot going on out there, and it's not over. I know that, so I'm out of respect for those folks that I know that now have passed. I tend to wear my mask even in places where no one else has one on when I go in the travel centers and stuff to gas up and places like that. But it's just out of respect for them. So just be careful out there. And as you know, I always start these out with prayer. So I'm going to start out with prayer, and then we'll go through the agenda, and we'll show you what we got to see today, all right? Precious Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this time today. It's good to be back here with JP in the bunker. And I just want to thank you so much for the folks that you've had come up to me at the schools and talk about these webinars. Passed it along to JP and Chris. But thank you so much for that, because when folks tell us that some of these may have kept them from getting in trouble out there, that makes everything worth it. So that's the most important thing with all of this, Lord, is we just need you to build a hedge of protection around these folks who are out there working. You know, I'm not just saying this, but I've been in it long enough now to know this part of the electric utility industry is they are not given nearly as much credit. They are just not given nearly as much of the accolades that they should get for what they do. They're just out there busting their hump, and it is sacrificial because they're putting themselves in harm's way ultimately at some point, just to provide so folks can have heat and cool and lights and things that they take for granted. And they're so unappreciated and so misunderstood. I mean, most people out there don't even understand it, Lord. So I'm lifting this group up in our industry, and all these folks that are out there providing these services for folks and putting themselves in harm's way, and the people that have to support them to be out there to do it. And Lord, get them home safe to their families. And also the folks that also just travel out there, another unappreciated group, which are the vendors that support all these folks with the right products to do their job safely and to do right by the utility company. So I lift all these folks out because the highways now have become very dangerous. I almost got killed a couple of times on this last trip to Texas. So Lord, it's the traveling as much as it is anything. So watch out for those folks that are out there traveling those roads, and get them home safe to their families if you can. And Father, I just lift up, again, all these folks that are dealing with medical issues and medical problems, either COVID or repercussions from it. And Father, just this health stuff drives us crazy, because half the time you don't really know what's wrong, and you're waiting to hear from the doctors, and that's a terrible time. So at those times, please give them comfort that this world cannot understand. So Father, we know you can do anything. All things are possible through you. So we just have to give it to you, and then give us that comfort to live with whatever is your will. Sometimes it doesn't go with John's pea brain, but it is your will, and we know that's the best that it could be. So you only want the best for us, Lord, and you're not going to give us more than we can handle. So thank you so much for this time again today. Let us pass some knowledge on and receive some knowledge. And if there's anything we can say or do today that'll keep somebody from getting in trouble out there, please let the Holy Spirit guide me to either say it or do it or show it on one of these webinars and these videos. So thank you for what your son did. Without that sacrifice on the cross, I couldn't even pray right now. So all of these things I ask and say, according to the will of the one who paid it all, my brother, Jesus Christ. Amen. Cool. All right. So what we got going here? Upcoming schedule. Today we're testing the 3S meter with overhead transformers, part 1. This is a good one. Y'all are going to watch this one. It gets a little crazy as we get into it. Then the 9th we will have part 2, and I would guess the 16th. Can't see the little stand, but I can do the math. So that'll be part 3. And then we're going to take a little break for Thanksgiving week and not have one Thanksgiving week. So we'll get 2 more in the can today, and we'll do this. By the way, I'm going to brag a little bit on Robert Bailey has now spoiled JP. These are some kick-butt cameras from what I've heard. Mm-hmm. So our IT boy has hooked JP up. They're wireless, right, JP?
That's right.
And don't need the microphone on me anymore.
Nope.
So supposedly the mics are great. So they're pretty sweet. So I know y'all aren't going to enjoy the fact that I can't trip on wires anymore and jerk the cameras down where you could laugh in the chat room at me. But I like them, and I got to see a little preview before JP saw them, and they are great. So thanks, Robert, for hooking us up. So what is on the agenda? Okay, what we've been up to, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Site inspection, the meter inspection, and then we're going to talk about using the meter adapter, which you use a lot on 3s and 4s. So if there's no test switch there, you can provide it with a meter adapter. So we'll go into the use of those, the safe use of those. All right. So first of all, what we've been up to, you're going to see upcoming, and we've already demonstrated it at out there at SWEMA. We have a new product enhancement. You now can remotely operate a 3 series, and we're gonna move it into the 7 as well. But right now, you can remotely operate our 3 series with a tablet or laptop. We'll get to the phones next, but we're going up the tree, right? So think about this. When you connect it up, you can sit in the nice, cool, or warm truck and operate. Once you get everything connected, you can perform all the tests you want from inside the truck. The other, what I think is equally as important, is the fact of the data management. You will now be able to hit one button on that tablet and shoot the information. No more meter site manager coming up. I know y'all are going to cry about that, but no more meter site manager, and it'll go right onto your system. Okay, so that's we're in phase 2 of it, and we've already got it. It can operate. We're getting into the data acquisition part of it, and so we should have it here very soon. So look for that after the first of the year to be available. You can add on to anything. You don't have to have a new product to do it. It's adaptable to a 3 series if you already have it. And as I said, we're going to do it with the 7 next. We did the 3 first. Okay, so that is coming, and it's very, very cool. So as I said, no more meter site manager, no more having anybody entering any of that in. Just hit the button; it goes right on your system. Okay. So let's. What we've got here is it's a 3S installation. It was at a school, so that's going to be important here in a little while. Not on this one, but in parts 2 and 3, and you'll see why. A little teaser there. But it also, this one is, as all of them, this one has its squirrely moments and has some good teaching opportunities. So we'll go ahead and get it rolling. And Brylan and I are going to attempt to test this 3S overhead. It's overhead CTs. Okay, we're here at another site, and so we're going to go through our normal inspection that we do. You've seen some folks have a real great sheet like we saw earlier, but we always do a visual inspection wherever we're out there. Brian always does one, so we're going to do one. We'll start up at the top of the pole and kind of look things over. So what you seeing so far, Brian?
All right, first thing, when I got out of the truck, I noticed first thing right off the bat is this pole. It's leaning pretty bad.
Yes, it is.
So that's something you want to make note of. Another thing, you look up there at the transformer itself, there's moss hanging off the transformer. There's moss hanging all over the CT wires,
Yep.
the CT itself. You look down the lines here, and you've got moss hanging on the lines. And then CT wires up there. That CT, it's plumb packed to the gills. It really is. I don't think you can fit another.
All right. So we talk about these inspections all the time, right? We talk about looking at this. So this is an installation that clearly the line crews did not think about us when it came time to test, right? A little crowded up there. Look at that bird's nest you've got. If anybody remembers from the old open bait casting, getting a bird's nest on it. So you can see it's very, very crowded. Remember, we're going to try and get up there with our high volt probe with that horseshoe on the end of our extendo and get around the proper conductors, because you only want to be around those conductors for that phase, right? But you want to be around all of those conductors for that phase. Just that phase, but all of them. You don't want to miss any. So it's going to get tricky to get up in here, but to what they're saying, there is literally moss hanging out of the CTs, moss hanging all up here. So clearly we've had some pretty nice winds here, blowing the moss off of here and cramming it through the CTs, right? I mean, you can see also that it doesn't have a lot of room for us to get in there and work, like we said. That right there doesn't really worry me too much. I'm more concerned on the bottom of that transformer looking for anything, right? So I tend to seal around the edge of that transformer and also the bottom of this, if anything. If I start seeing that paint is all buckling and rusting like that, then I'm going to definitely make a note of it. But I do want to definitely, if I'm reporting this site, remember the techs, we are the eyes and ears of the utility company, right? So we're going to want to let them know. This one, probably somebody should come just check it out, the overhead stuff. And then you're going to see here in a second, it also applies down there at the bottom of the pole.
Wire through it.
Good.
They're going all different ways. I mean, it's going to be a challenge getting the fork on there.
It will be, and it's all up, what you don't like to see, all up on our connectors, and it literally, and I know JP will get this in the shot, because of where we are and everything, I'm sure they got a lot of really high winds, and the tree with the moss on it behind it, it actually has crammed that moss up in that CT, hadn't it?
Yes.
So it's literally crammed up in the CT. So we got moss in the CT, all in our connections up there, just like Brown's pointing out. I mean, you never know what you're going to run into, but he's doing a great inspection of this thing and just checking it out top to bottom. So what else you see?
Well, that's about, I mean, it from the top. You come on down the pole over here, and your grounds and everything, the can's grounded itself.
This ground looks good.
It looks good. Let's see here. Yeah, it's pretty good and tight. Other than that, I mean,
Can's on good.
Can's on pretty good. So now you just need to cut the seal, pull the meter down, and open up on the inside.
That's right. Conduit looks okay. I can't see. Is there a weatherhead up there?
Yes, there's a weatherhead over
Thank
here.
goodness for that. There'd be something down the pipe going down
I'm
here
sure.
in our meter. Huh? Okay, so that looks okay up there. So yeah, but one thing you pointed out, and you always do that, when you get up there, I'm sure you're probably already kind of thinking in your mind, how am I going to get up there to that overhead to get in there? You're checking your angles, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Because, and we haven't really talked about that a whole lot, but you kind of pick your spots, and sometimes you need to angle that high volt probe.
Right.
You got to either turn it, twist it, angle it to be able to get the right shot, because like earlier, you were able to get, because of the way you cocked it and everything, which is a real good job, you got on all of it. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
So up here, I'm with you on that one. I think that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Even for a stick man like you, son, that's going to be I'm ready to watch that one. But we'll go ahead.
Okay, so I've had JP put up on the screen. This is a knuckle that you can put on your extendo to use with our high volt probe. And the reason why, I'm gonna go over here, JP will get to use the new cameras and flash them over here. I'm gonna go over to the whiteboard and just show you real quick how you can really comes into play for me the most. And if I've got my CT and it's mounted vertically, so I've got my conductors running this way. And let's say that I'm over here and I'm running between the two on my phases. In other words, I've got where I'm using B as a reference, right? I've got a 6S and I'm using B as a reference. So when these are coming out of here, these conductors, when they come out, they start separating pretty early, okay? The problem is, remember, I said you've got to get on just that phase, but you got to get on all the conductors. So if you get on just here, it's not going to test right. If you get on here, it's not going to test right. And I got them coming out of here, right? So what you do is, if you take that knuckle, what it allows you to do is it allows you to lay your high volt probe, your horseshoe, your prong, whatever you want to call it. I can lay it flat. So if I can lay it flat, and I've got one like this, I can come in right here and I can grab both of these at the closest point when they're the closest together before they start spreading out. Because then it's getting hard to start grabbing both of them, right, with the fork. If I've just got it like this, if I've got the fork like this, and I start trying to turn and grab, I'm having to like literally pry on it to get them in there. If I have the one that lays it flat, if I have that knuckle in there, or other ones, I think SensorLink has one on their site as well. So you might want to check that. I was talking to Nate Roth and at SWEMA, and Nate said that they have one as well on their site that you can get with it that allows you to lay it flat. But man, if you can lay it flat right here, I'm catching the conductors at the closest point right here, and I can just slide it either here, slide it here, and I can get an easier measurement, all right? I really recommend you have one of those. If you've got these vertical CTs with my conductors running this way, it's just so easy to just grab it, slide it. I'm getting as close to the CT as I can get, right? But it's just easier to start grabbing those conductors before they start spreading out, especially if I've got it like this. Now I can cock it a little bit this way, right? But that allows me to lay it flat. Okay, so it's a big difference. I'm trying to get over here and lean over here and grab these things and get on them, or come this way and grab on them, and they're spread out. It's a pain in the neck. Y'all know that. And so that allows you to do it a heck of a lot easier. So I definitely recommend that you get one of those, or SensorLinks, or whoever's, but get one that allows you to lay it flat. All right? Thanks, JP.
And we'll start here at the bottom and go ahead and open her up and see what we got.
Sounds good.
All right.
You can see right there the grease on the tabs and everything. That wouldn't hurt to be clean. Spray some cleaner in there and maybe scrub them with a brush or something like that.
Sure. Don't like seeing a lot of green, do we?
No,
There's
we
a
don't.
whole lot of green, folks. I hope you can see that. JP's good with the camera, so you can see a whole lot of green all up in there. We're not liking seeing all that green up in there. So, and to what we said earlier, of course, it's up to y'all, but you know, that grease tends to, I know it might seem slicker right at the beginning when we first put it in, but it will harden over time. And then on top of that, you've also got a case like this where it just seems to attract stuff. So right now, you can see we've got it. I don't know, but I mean, I would guess probably this one's going to get changed out here in the near future, especially after this, because it's this just doesn't look that hot. So we'll probably one's probably
pull that
going to
off.
get
Let's
changed
see what it looks like in there.
Got it. Let's get her off of here and see what we got, son.
Don't be laughing at me right now for not hitting. Yeah, you'll see in a second. Wait for it, wait for it. I'm not doing that on the back side here. It's right there. Yeah, no, you don't need to blow up the chapter and laugh at me.
Okay. All right, so far, well, this just goes along with everything else we're saying, which is pretty, it could definitely use some TLC. So one way or another, and this may be one they even decide to change out here, but this one could definitely use some TLC right here. So, but we don't see anything as far as from the wires, nothing right here. Everything seems good and tight right here, here, and here.
How about your plungers right there? They working pretty good? Looks like they need to be cleaned a little.
Yep, and you know what? That's
And sticking just a hair in it.
that left one's way worse than that right one. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
That one's wanting to grab right there. Oh yeah, that dude right there is wanting to grab pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is in it. So, okay. All right.
So in these,
Wait. Okay.
okay. So in these, this is a corrosive area. So in these highly corrosive areas, what you got to watch out for is, and we've mentioned this before, if you grease them up too much, yeah, it's great in the beginning, but it just becomes an attraction for all you can see what happens. And it just all, when you're in there, if you don't clean it up, and we've shown you some of the products you can spray with, and you can spray these things down and clean them up real good. And now if you don't actuate those plungers correctly, you can really get in some problems. So you notice that was one of the first things from a safety standpoint. You need those plungers to actuate, okay? So if it's actually gunked up that bad, that's a problem. So, and you can see it just gets everywhere for some reason. It was even on the plungers. There would be no reason to have, you wouldn't be lubing up the plungers, but you can just see once you get going with that stuff. So I'm not a huge advocate of that at all. It's totally up to you guys. But when you're in a corrosive area like that, you can see even all of our connections with our wires everywhere. All this stuff is terribly corroded, right? All of it. But even when it starts affecting those plungers, that is a very clear safety problem. So we definitely don't want to have those plungers not actuating like they should, okay? But this is just another example of inspect it first, do some cleaning. Why not leave it good for the next guy? Why not leave it better for the next guy, actually? Sorry, not good. Leave it better for the next guy and just do some cleaning. But this one you might, like I said earlier, you might recommend. This is one we might want to change out. It looks like it's done a pretty good job for us for a while now, but it might be time to change that one out. We can try cleaning up really good first and see. But I would say it's probably a candidate maybe to change her out.
So in this case, for this one, we're going to use a meter adapter. So when we install the meter adapter in there, it gives us the test switch here at the bottom for us to use our duct bill.
So JP pointed out to me, and I didn't even realize it said on there. So this is funny. So I was talking about it, and everybody has different ways of doing things out there in the field, right? So now this is a meter adapter. We have a 6 terminal, an 8 terminal, 13 terminal, right? So this is for a 3 to 4 rather. So you use the different number of terminals depending on the meter form that you're going to be using with this, right? So for this meter form, a 3 and a 4, this is the correct one, a 6 terminal right here. So you can see here it gives us test switches across the bottom. You just insert it in there and the meter's in here. So it goes into the socket. And now I have test switches down here, which are a lot easier to work with. Otherwise, if you don't have that, you're going to need some little small clamp-ons. And some people, I've used that before. You use just small clamp-ons to pick up your current. I don't have anywhere to stick my duct bills if I don't have a test switch. So I've got to pick up that secondary current somehow, right? So to pick up that secondary current, like I said, I can use some little small clamp-ons. They're only about that long, so they can get up in some of those tight cans, okay? You can even use them with 2 S's and get in a really tight can. But you would use those small ones to pick up the secondary current. But in this case, I can go back to using my duct bills to pick up my secondary current, and I can just insert them in this. So this gives me a test switch where I don't have a test switch. Now, the way that I always did this, and the first ones that I did were ring, not ringless. So I took the meter, right, and I pulled the meter and I put it in here, put my ring on it, and then just inserted the whole thing in, right? So I'm inserting the whole thing in at one time. And you'll notice here in a second, Brylan doesn't do it that way. He inserts this in first and then puts the meter in. And so that's because of the first ones I did. That's just the way that I always did it. Creature of habit, right? Good habits. We want to be creatures of good habits out there. So I'm a creature of habit. And I also, and I'll mention it here in a minute, I always hold on to the meter when I'm shoving in my duct bills because that cantilever action. So I've plugged this in now with some other stuff on it. I've got the meter on here, and now I'm going to shove down here at the bottom. Well, that shoving in with the duct bills makes it want to come out. So if it wasn't very tight up in here, it might want to pull on it. So I just make it a habit. I put my hand on the meter, and I go ahead and put my duct bills in. But, so I was talking about this, and JP just real nonchalant like he tends to do, especially with me. He just goes, you know, it says it right there on the thing. I said, what are you talking about? He says, it says it right on there. I had never noticed that it says, always attach the meter and sealing ring before installing the test adapter. So, as with a lot of things in life with me, I'd rather be lucky than good. So I just did it because that was the way I did it. And the first ones I had, I needed to get on there, and I went and put my ring on and did it that way because I was dealing with the meters I was dealing with. So anyway, so let's do it the way it says on the label. And I would put the meter in first, and then I put the whole thing in there and shove it in.
Okay, so you've seen us demo these before in the webinars, but this allows us, where we don't have a test switch now, for us to be able to use those duct bills with a piece of test equipment so we can do the test. So this one's set up for 3/4. So now, when you put these in, do you put the meter on first or do you put that in first? I've heard 2 different schools on this. Some people like to put the meter and then shove the whole thing in at one time to mount that on there. get everything real secured to the meter, and some people put this on first. Which way you like?
I normally put this on first and then come in with my meter. Just a little bit easier to hold and look at, make sure everything's lining up and going in properly, and you're not hitting at the ground or something like that, you know.
Gotcha.
That way you're not getting an arc or something along those lines.
Question for you, and a little bit I've dealt with these things out there too, is something to just keep in mind, and we'll maybe even talk about it here in a minute. I tend to push in on them when I'm applying my duck bills and stuff, because it's almost a cantilever on it, isn't it? When you're shoving at the bottom, it's wanting to pull it out at the top. It only makes sense. It's a cantilever action, isn't it? So do you kind of hold when you're shoving them in there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah.
All right. Now, what are you looking for when you shove that thing in there?
I'm just making sure all the blades on the back are going in good. I'm not too high or too low, which on the 3S, 4S adapter, you know, it's kind of hard to be too high or low because you've got these middle tabs right there keeping it from going up and down.
Gotcha.
But I just like to make sure everything's making a good connection around in through there. And on this service right here, it looks like we are.
All right.
Look around the outside here and make sure your meter's not cocked up or cocked down. Make sure it's in there.
And what do you go off that? You look for like the gaps,
I just look at the gap right there.
Look at that gap.
I mean, right here we're looking, everything looks good. The gap around through there, it's pushed back as far as it's going to go. Then I'll just go ahead and make sure the adapter itself, it's still in there good. It's not sagged down or anything like that.
So you're looking pretty much spacing. You don't want it tighter at the top and open at the bottom right here in the spacing right here around the meter into the adapter. Because you know if it's that, then you know it's cocked one side or another. If I'm a lot tighter at the top and I got a bigger gap at the bottom or vice versa, then I'm cocked one way or another with my meter, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Okay. That's a good point. Okay.
If you go back to what I just said, you can help to eliminate the gap between the adapter and the meter if you put it on pre-insertion into the socket, right? So if you shove it in there, and you can look and check and make sure you've got a good seal everywhere, or you can have it on a nice surface, you can set that thing down there and shove on there and make sure that thing's on there really good before you shove it in the socket. So one of them you can look at really well before you get in there, but that's what you're looking for. You're looking for gaps at top or bottom. Just as I said, if you got a gap at the top or a gap at the bottom, then it's not in there straight, right? And typically if it's not in there straight, it's not in there all the way. So we want to make sure all of our contacts are all the way in, both from the meter to the adapter and then the adapter into the socket. So you just want to make sure there's no gaps there and everything's all lined up. Remember, I put my hand on the meter when I'm shoving the duck bills in, and to keep me from getting that cantilever action. But you're going to find in this one that because you saw how messy it was up at the top, so we're definitely going to run into some issues up at the top of the pole. And it is going to involve some skillful stick work on more than one person's part. So there's a little teaser. So and this has happened to any of us that have used the high volt probes out there in the field a lot. This has happened to you, what's about to happen to us here. So, but as always, we're field guys. We come up with a good, safe way of solving the problem out there in the field, and we get it done. So this one's going to get interesting. If you'll, we got part 2 coming up next week and part 3 the next week, so we'll get those 2 knocked out today so you can have them because I'll be gone. Then we will take the break Thanksgiving week, and then we will start back in. So above all, please be careful out there. And if you got any questions or anything that I or the Professor Ray Gore or anybody can help you with, please call in here and ask us. We'd be more than happy. If I'm rolling down the road, you know I'll talk to you. And if I'm in front of a customer, though, I'm old school. So if I'm in front of a customer, phone's off, and or I leave it in the vehicle. So I'm with that customer, and they get my full attention. So, but if I'm rolling down the road, I'll talk to you as long as we need to. And Ray Gore, of course, he does that a lot, all day long, every day. So just call us if you got an issue, because we'd rather you call us and talk about something before just give it a try. Okay. So we're not baking cookies out there, are we? So be careful out there, please. Get home safe to your families. God bless y'all, and thanks. Appreciate you. We'll see you the next week and the next week before Thanksgiving.